Alright, so in this video, our topic is mainly about non-stock savings and loan associations. So essentially, the operation is pretty much the same as the building and loan associations and the trust companies. Alright, although trust companies, it's more on higher end. Alright, so again, focus would be on non-stock savings and loan associations, and we will be discussing the Republic Act that covers this. Republic Act number 8367, short title, Revised Non-Stock Savings and Loan Association Act of 1997. With regards to non-stock savings and loan associations, it's pretty much like cooperatives. They don't have stock ownership, but the owners are essentially the members, and these members do contribute to the fund. Okay, in the case of non-stock savings and loan associations, what do you call this? The membership, for you to become a member, you also have to, of course, provide some sort of fund to the association. So it's also evidenced by some sort of passbook. Most of non-stock savings and loan associations that I know are for teachers. There's MathMass, and then another would be AppsLai. Okay, so what they do for their members is that the members do, it's some sort of, some like a bank deposit. There's passbook, and then when the members need to borrow money, so they can borrow from the organization. Okay, sometimes these organizations, they have specific groups, like only for teachers or only for a certain sector. So it would depend on the type of non-stock savings and loan association. All right. Okay, so they're not very common nowadays, non-stock savings and loan associations, but there still are a number of them, and usually they do cater to specific groups, so not everyone is aware of their existence, and not just any member of the public can join or can avail of their services. They do cater to, specific people. Okay, so again, Section 1, title, Revised Non-Stock Savings and Loan Association Act of 1997. Declaration of policy. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to first, encourage industry, frugality, and accumulation of savings, and judicious utilization of credit among the members of non-stock savings and loan associations. Second, regulate and supervise the activities of non-stock savings and loan associations in order to place their operations on a sound, stable, and efficient basis, to the end that they may be able to better provide for the establishment of additional savings and credit facilities in a fair manner to their members, and to curtail or prevent acts or practices of these associations which are prejudicial to their members' interests. Okay. Another reason, again, essentially they're providing financial service to their members, and it's a non-bank financial institution. They're dealing with people's money, so to avoid fraud, theft, cases of staff. So these organizations are normally being supervised under by the BSP. Okay, so they do have these laws covering them or governing them. Thirdly, lay down the minimum requirements and the standards under which non-stock savings and loan associations may organize and operate. And then lastly, maximize the protection of members of non-stock savings and loan associations against misfeasance and malfeasance of the trustees and officers thereof. Okay, so yun nga, to avoid cases of fraud, cases of staff, cases of theft, people running away with the money of the members. Okay, Section 3, definition of terms. For the purposes of implementing this act, the following definitions shall apply. Non-stock savings and loan association shall mean a non-stock, non-profit corporation engaged in the business of accumulating the savings of its members and using such accumulations for loans to members to service the needs of households by providing long-term financing for home building and development and for personal finance. Association shall refer only to non-stock savings and loan associations organized under this Act and the Corporation Code of the Philippines. So they are essentially a corporation. They form a business, so they have to be registered with the SEC, and again, the other law that govern them is the Corporation Code. Next, Monetary Board shall mean the Monetary Board of the BSP, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Bangko Sentral shall mean the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Section 4, Organization of an Association. At least 5 but not more than 15 members of a well-defined group as provided herein may form an association under this act. So the incorporator, so to speak, 5 to 15 people. An association prior to transacting any business shall secure a license from the Monetary Board and register with the Securities and Exchange Commission. The application for a license, they have this application fee and license fee, signed by a majority of the incorporators and verified by one of the trustees, the treasurer usually, shall include the following. The proposed articles of incorporation and bylaws, together with names and addresses of the incorporators, trustees, and officers, with a statement of their character, experience, and general fitness to engage in the non-stock savings and loan business. Okay, for any corporation, when they register with the SEC, so the SEC, they do have the template for articles of incorporation and bylaws in their website. So if you're curious about that, you can go and download a copy. So normally what the information provided therein are, the names, the address, TIN numbers or ID numbers, and then nationality. And then for the bylaws, for the officers or board of trustees or the members, board members, so they do provide, the provisions, positions available and the qualifications for anyone who's going to occupy that position. So in a way, those provide, the character, experience, and general fitness, okay, to engage in the non-stock savings and loan business. And then next, we have an itemized statement of the estimated receipts and expenditures of the proposed association for the first year, just an estimate. A filing fee in such amounts as may be determined by the Monetary Board. So currently there's, they have a new table for the filing fees, license fees, application fees, and of course the minimum required capital. Such other information as the Monetary Board may require. The SEC shall not register the articles of incorporation and bylaws of a proposed association unless the application is accompanied by a certificate of the Monetary Board approving the same. So, mauuna muna yung certificate from the Monetary Board. The Monetary Board may deny the application to organize an association under this Act if it finds that the association is being organized for any purpose other than to engage in the business of a legitimate non-stock savings and loan association, or that the association's financial program is unsound, or that the proposed members are adequately served by one or more existing associations. Okay, so essentially, they have to check the purpose, and then they have to ensure that they're only going to conduct business related to, the main point of an non-stock savings and loan association. So if they're going to provide other services, so they're probably going to be disqualified from registering as non-stock savings and loan association. And then, of course, if they're members, if there's already an existing savings and loan association catering to, these individuals, and, in a particular place, particular area, and then this new association is also planning to put up a new one just because they're not satisfied with, the current one, they might also be declined, alright? Especially if the other one is, operating properly since they're being monitored, supervised still by the Monetary Board with the BSP. The association shall confine its membership to a well-defined group of persons. So they do have, specific targeted people or group, and shall not transact business with the general public. Okay, so it's not for all right? A well-defined group shall be defined by the Monetary Board and shall consist of, but not be limited to, any of the following: employees, officers, and directors of one company, including member retirees, so that's possible. Government employees belonging to the same department, branch, office, including member retirees. Okay. Immediate members of the families of the second degree of consanguinity or affinity of those falling under paragraphs 1 and 2 above. Okay. So you have those. Okay, one company, so it's possible, DepEd, Region 4E, or only in Quezon, or a particular company, okay, or if this company have branches, so that's also possible, alright? Associations whose articles of incorporation and bylaws were approved and registered prior to the effectivity of this act, and which allow membership coverage broader than the foregoing definition, shall be allowed to continue as such, unless otherwise required by the Monetary Board. So this is a transitionary clause. The Monetary Board may, as circumstances warrant, require associations mentioned in the immediately preceding paragraph to amend their bylaws to comply with the concept of a well-defined group. Okay. In no case shall the total amount of the entrance fees exceed 1% of the amount to be contributed or otherwise paid in by the particular member, provided that for new members, the said fee shall be based on the amount of contribution computed in accordance with the revaluation of the assets of the organization. Okay. Essentially, entrance fees, or for you to join, they have this sort of fee that they have to pay. Okay, so essentially it usually goes for admin and operating expenses. No person, association, partnership, or corporation shall do business or hold itself out as doing business as an association, or shall use the term savings and loan association, or any other title or name tending to give the public the impression that it is engaged in the operations and activities of an association, unless so authorized by this act. So essentially only, legitimately registered non-stock savings and loan association could use the name, could use the term association or savings and loan association in their name or title, okay, or in the description of their business. Section 5, tax exemption. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why they prefer forming an association instead of, availing the services of other financial institutions than bank or non-bank. An association shall be exempt from payment of tax in respect to income it receives, including interest on its deposits with any bank. Provided, however, that income derived from any of its properties, real or personal, or any activity conducted for profit, regardless of the disposition thereof, is subject to the corresponding internal revenue taxes imposed under the NIRC, National Internal Revenue Code. Okay, so they do have this, benefit or incentive for them to form an association. So there's the tax exemption, as long as they are, not for profit, non-stock, and not for profit. They conduct their business are for the benefit of the members. Okay, so if it becomes for profit, or if they conduct activities for profit, that part of the business would have to be taxed, okay, regardless of the disposition of that particular activity done for profit. Interest earnings on deposits of members with associations, as well as the shares of its members from the net income of the association, shall be exempt from income tax. Okay, so I think what normally happens is that the members, they do have some sort of deposits into the association, right? They provide amount or funding to the association, and then every year, of course, the association normally earns money by lending to the members, and then the members would pay little interest, and then the interest would be the earnings of the associations, right? And then after every year or a certain period of time, the profit or net profit of the association, these are distributed to the account of all the members of the association. So in a way, it inures to the benefit of the members. So they're not for profit, for certain people, but essentially for the benefit of the members themselves. And, instead of withdrawing or distributing the profit, what they do is they simply credit it to the account of the members, and in a way it forms part of the capital or funding of the organization or the association, right? Okay, so in that case, it says here that those shall be exempt from income tax. I think it's still the same even unto this day. Okay. Section 6, prohibition against injury into or disclosure of deposits, so some sort of data privacy. All deposits of whatever nature with an association in the Philippines are hereby considered as of an absolutely confidential nature and may not be examined, inquired, or looked into by any person, government official, bureau, or office except upon written permission of the depositor, or in cases of impeachment, or upon order of a competent court in cases of bribery or dereliction of duty of public officials, or in cases where the money deposited or invested is the subject matter of litigation. Okay, so, privacy, confidentiality, and then they have the exceptions here, if it's ordered by the court, if it's needed for an investigation, if it's a subject matter of a litigation or a case. It shall be unlawful for any official or employee of an association to disclose to any person any information concerning said deposits, except in cases mentioned in the preceding paragraph of this section. Any official or employee of an association who violates this section shall be punished under Public Act number 1405 as amended. Okay, Section 7, Powers of Associations. The association shall accept deposits from and grant loans only to its members, okay, subject to such rules and regulations as the Monetary Board may promulgate to ensure sound, stable, and efficient operation, provided that no deposit shall be sourced or deducted from the loans granted to a member without his or her written consent. The loan shall not exceed the member's deposits and contributions in the association, okay, plus 12 months of his regular salary, so the association may allow, or 70% of the fair market value of any property acceptable as collateral on first mortgage that he may offer as security. Okay, so in a way, they do act like bank in such that they offer loans and then they provide some sort of salary loan because the amount is based on regular salary. And then they also act like a pawn shop because they do accept collaterals, properties acceptable as collateral, and they can lend up to 70% of the fair market value of that property. Okay, but essentially they are, non-stock savings and loan association, and only for their members. Okay, provided that no loan shall have the maturity date of more than 5 years, so maximum credit period nila is 5 years, except loans on the security of unencumbered real estate for the purpose of home building and home development, which may be granted with maturities not exceeding 25 years. Kasi, the purpose is for, a nature that is big, that would require a huge amount of money, so the credit term is up to 25 years if the purpose is for home building and home development. And medium and long-term loans to finance agricultural projects subject to regulations prescribed by the Monetary Board. Provided further that the treasurer, cashier, or paymaster of the office employing a member is required. So, some sort of certification that the member, the borrower, is going to be able to repay the loan. Okay, he has the ability or capability to repay the loan. Okay, some sort of, certification of his source of income. Notwithstanding the provision of any existing law, rule, or regulation to the contrary, so make deductions from his salary, wage, income, or retirement pension pursuant to the terms of his loan and all other deductions authorized by the member, to remit such deductions to the association concerned and to collect such reasonable fee for his services as may be authorized by rules promulgated by the Monetary Board. Okay, so if it's, if it's within a certain company, the group or the association is catering to employees of a company, so they can enter into an agreement with the company for, automatic salary deduction of the repayment of loans or borrowings. In addition to the powers granted it by this Act and existing laws, an association may charge reasonable interest and collect such necessary fees and charges, processing fee, application fee, incidental to the grant of loans. Invest its funds in any sound, non-speculative enterprises, as well as in bonds, security, and other obligations issued by the government of the Philippines. So they can invest, in bonds, mostly in bonds, non-speculative. Stocks are speculative, so they're not allowed. Or any of its political subdivisions, instrumentalities, or corporations, including government-owned or controlled corporations, subject to the rules and regulations by the Monetary Board, allow members to participate in the profits of the association, borrow money or incur such obligations not exceeding 20% of the total assets of the association from any lending institution. The Monetary Board may, in meritorious cases, raise the ceiling on the borrowing capacity of an association to an amount not exceeding 30% of its total assets, provided that any such association organized by employees of an entity or corporation may borrow funds from said entity or corporation, but not vice versa. Provided further that the number of the association's creditors shall not exceed 19 at any one time. Okay. So these are before. There are probably revisions for current time. Essentially, what this part is saying is that the association, if it wants to borrow money from, let's say, a bank or the company that it's serving members for, or what they call this, corporation, so they could borrow, but it has a limit of up to 20%, and then in meritorious cases it could go up to 30%, right? But then it's only the association that could borrow money from this company or corporation, but this corporation or company cannot borrow from the association. All right, and then the number of creditors shall not exceed 19 at any one time, but I think this has been revised, so there are probably new rules regarding this. Probably a percentage on the number of members that the association has. Okay, because there are like math, I think they cater to all teachers, member teachers of the division of Quezon, so there's definitely a lot. So 19 is not going to make it work for them. All right, so it's probably a certain percentage of the total number of members. Maintain deposits with banks, provided that the amount of such deposits shall be subject to the loan limit to a single borrower as prescribed herein or by other special laws or regulations. So the association, of course, they're not a bank. They're a financial institution, yes. But in a way, they're not as safe as banks with regards to safeguarding the deposits of the members. So they are in a way required to deposit their funds in a bank. All right, so they have to maintain deposits with banks. And then require the employer, entity, or corporation to provide it with adequate office space within which it can conduct its business. So normally they operate within the company or the corporation if it's serving a certain corporation. But if it's serving a large area, like Matmas or Upslide, so they could provide an office, a separate office, that's easily accessible to majority of the members, right? Engage in that benefit program meant exclusively for the mutual benefit of its members. Okay. Section 8, restrictions on associations. First, no association shall have or carry upon its books for any person any demand, commercial or checking account, or any credit to be withdrawn upon the presentation of any negotiable check or draft. Okay, so they're only going to maintain savings account. Okay, why not checking? Because it's easier for them to issue loans or borrowings in the form of checks. Okay, probably at current time this has been revised. No association shall advertise or represent itself to the public as a bank. Of course, they are not a bank. Okay. No association shall issue, publish, or cause or permit to be issued or published any advertisement that is doing or permitted to do any business which is prohibited by law for an association. So they only have, certain financial services that they can offer, and only for its members. Okay. So normally they really don't they don't do adverts or promotions. Okay, section 9, service units. An association shall open, maintain, and operate service units as may be necessary in order to deliver services to its members, subject to the approval of the monetary board. Okay, and then agents and salesmen. No person shall act as an agent or a sales representative of an association, because it's mostly for members, or operate an agency without obtaining a license from the monetary board. So that's going to be, a whole different side of business. No license is required for a collector of an association, but no person shall hold himself out or act as collector unless he is authorized as a collector in writing by such association. So, since they do lend money to their members, so they probably have someone to collect the money, and the collector is he needs to be authorized by the association. Section 11, merger or consolidation of associations. To achieve simplicity, economy, and efficiency, different associations of one company or department or office may merge or consolidate upon the approval of the monetary board. Okay, so there should be an approval. Section 12, trustees. Only members are eligible as trustees of an association, of course, provided that in the case of a merger or consolidation of associations duly approved by the monetary board, the limitation on the maximum number of trustees in a corporation, as provided for in the corporation code, shall not be applied for a maximum period of 3 years, so that the membership in the new board may include up to the total number of trustees provided for in the respective articles of incorporation or the merging or consolidating association. So what's stated in the new bylaws or articles of incorporation with regards to the number of trustees, so that would prevail. Section 13, bond of officers and employees. All officers and employees of an association who, in the regular discharge of their duties, have access to money or negotiable securities shall, before entering upon such duties, furnish to the employing association a good and sufficient bond. Okay, so it's some sort of a bond. A bond is some sort of security that you're not going to run away with the money. That in case you do, then the bond will be forfeited in favor of the association. The form and amount of which shall be prescribed by the monetary board and providing for indemnity to the association against the loss of money or securities by reason of their dishonesty, in case they run away with the money of the association. So bonds are normally required for, cashiers, people who are essentially holding the money or processing the money of the association. Section 14, compensation of trustees, officers, and employees. No trustee, officer, or employee of an association shall receive from such association, and no association shall pay to any trustee, officer, or employee of such association any commission, emolument, gratuity, or reward based on the volume or number of loans made or based on the interest or fees collected thereon. Okay, I like this. Okay, nothing in this section prohibits or limits any of the following: receipt or payment of salaries of trustees, officers, and employees, receipt of payment or of commissions to agents, whether or not based on the volume or number of loans, or on the interest or fees collected thereon, commissions, and receipt or payments of bonuses to trustees, officers, or employees if such bonuses are based on the performance and not on the volume or number of loans made or on the interest of fees collected thereon. Okay, so essentially the officers, trustees, employees of the association, they're entitled to, of course, salaries, all right, and then commissions if there are agents. Okay, but this should not be based on the volume of the number of loans and the interest or fees collected. Okay, this should not be used as basis for payment of commissions or payment of bonuses. All right, so that's a good one. All increase in the compensation in any form of all trustees and trustee officers in excess of 10% thereof per annum shall require the approval of the Banco Central. Okay, so any increase should not exceed 10%. Limitations on lending authority. An association shall not commit itself to make any loans for amounts in excess of the total of the following amounts: amount of cash available for loan purposes. So essentially, they're not going to, deplete the financial resources of the association. Amount of cash which can be readily realized upon the sale or redemption of permissible investments made by the association. Amount of credit available for loan purposes from government or private financing institutions. So essentially, you cannot lend what you do not have. Okay, so you have that limit. So only what's available. So that's only the amount of money that you can lend. All right. No association shall directly or indirectly make any loans to any trustee or officer of such association, either for himself or as an agent or as a partner of another. Okay, except with the written approval of the majority of the trustees of the association, excluding the trustee concerned, provided that the total loans, direct or indirect, granted at any one time to such trustees and officers shall not exceed 20% of the total contributions of the association. In all cases of the credit accommodations granted to trustees and officers under this subsection, the written approval of the majority of trustees of the association, excluding the trustee concerned, shall be entered upon the records of the association, and a copy of such entry shall be transmitted forthwith to the Bangko Central. Okay, so what did this section say? So if you're a trustee or officer of the association, you are not allowed to borrow money from the association. Okay, but if the other trustees, majority of the other trustees would agree and allow you to do so, then you can, but there's a limit, only up to 20% of the total capital contributions of the association. Okay, and then in such a case as well, what do you call this? It should be recorded in the books of the association, in the records, and the information will be, it should, what do you call this? The Bangko Central should be informed of such transaction. Okay, normally in banks, they have this, what do you call this? They have this limitation, DOS 3. Okay, so directors, officers, and then their relatives up to the fourth degree of consanguinity are not allowed to transact, especially loans, okay, to avail of loan services from that particular bank or financial institution. It's to avoid or prevent collusion, like there some sort of, to avoid what do you call this, crimes that involve an insider. Okay, so essentially you have someone inside the financial institution, and then it's possible that they could collude with people outside. Normally, to prevent that, so the laws would not allow relatives up to the fourth degree of consanguinity to transact with the financial institutions. Okay, with regards to certain services, or of course they can deposit, but they cannot avail of the loans, any types of loans, salary loan, business loan, home loan, car loan, things like that. Alright, and then the transactions of all trustee officers with the association shall not be under terms more favorable than those transacted with other members. So, same terms as what's been given to the other members. So it's essentially no special treatment, right? The office of any trustee or trustee officer of an association who violates the provisions of this subsection shall immediately become vacant. Okay, so essentially if they want to borrow money, so they have to leave their post or their possession. They have to resign as a trustee or director or officer. So they're going to be an ordinary member of the association, all right? If they violate the provision. Okay, so let's say they borrow but they did not inform the Bangko Central, so that's a violation. So in such a case, they have to, leave their post, make it vacant, and be an ordinary member. Okay, trustees or officers shall be punished by imprisonment of not less than 1 year, not more than 10 years, by a fine of not less than 5,000, not more than 50,000, right? Execution of loan agreement. For each loan made by an association, a written note or other obligation expressing a rate of interest must be executed by the borrower. Okay, so, promissory note, evidence of indebtedness. Liability of officers for loans contrary to law. No association shall make or purchase any loan or investment not authorized or permitted under this Act. And any trustee, officer, or employee who in behalf of any such association knowingly makes or purchases any such loan or investment, or who knowingly consents thereto, shall be personally liable to the association for the full amount of any such loan or investment. Limitations on investment. No association at any one time shall invest in bonds and securities in a total amount in excess of 10%. Again, this is during that time. It's probably been revised over the years, right? And it could be different at the current time. And also, any amount in excess should have prior approval from Bangko Central. No association at any one time shall invest in real property in a total amount in excess of 5%. of the total assets of such association. And then no association at any one time shall invest in furniture, fixture, furnishings, and equipment and leasehold improvements for its offices in an amount more than 10%. So they have a limit for that. Reserves. Every association shall create a withdrawable share reserve which shall consist of 2% of the total capital contributions of the members, which the Monetary Board may increase to a maximum of 3% as the situation warrants. Again, I think this has been revised as well because banks 10 to 20%, probably non-bank financial institutions have been, increased as well for liquidity purposes. The association shall distribute to its members any portion of its income if its withdrawable share reserve is less than the minimum requirement, or if by such payment or distribution, such reserve will be reduced to an amount below the minimum requirement provided herein. So normally, net income, these are distributed in a way that the credit or the equity of each members are increased, rather than distributing them in the form of cash to the members. Section 20, withdrawable by a member. For the sole purpose of allowing an equitable valuation and distribution of assets for withdrawing members, an association shall, upon the effectivity of this act, impute revalued surplus to be added to the withdrawn capital, subject to such rules as the Monetary Board may prescribe. Such rules shall allow a reasonable period between withdrawal of capital and payment of the share of the member from the revalued surplus. Okay, so there's going to be a revaluation before any withdrawal. Annual reports by the association within 120 calendar days, so 4 months, after the close of its fiscal year, furnish the Monetary Board and post in any of the association's bulletin board or any other conspicuous place a copy of the financial statement. Okay, so essentially it should be accessible to the members, right? The amount, character of the assets and liabilities of the association at the end of the preceding fiscal year. The Monetary Board may, in addition to the foregoing, require the disclosure of such other information as it shall deem necessary for the protection of the members of the association. So essentially, general financial statements, which could be requested by the members. So as a corporation, they are actually required to submit financial statements to the SEC, and all financial statements submitted to the SEC are public documents and can be requested by anyone, actually. All right, so what more kung member ka ng association, right? Okay, Section 22, Regulatory Powers over Associations. Notwithstanding the provisions of Section 130 of RA 7653, the power to regulate the operations of any association by the Monetary Board shall continue and consist of the following. Okay, so Monetary Board supervision ng associations. So in seeing to it that the capital, financing, direction, administration, as well as the integrity, responsibility, and ability of organizers, administrators, trustees, and officers of all associations organized and operated under this Act, shall reasonably assure the safety of the interest which its members entrust to them. And regulating the operation and activities of associations, which include, among others, placing limits to the maximum credit allowed any individual borrower, determining the loan repayment period and loan procedures, imposing uniform accounting system and manner of keeping the accounts and records of associations, instituting periodic surveys of loan and lending procedures, audits, test check of each and other transactions of associations, and, whenever necessary, in conducting training courses for personnel of associations. And then next, requiring all accountable officers and employees of every association to post bonds for the faithful performance of their duties in reasonable sums and with such sureties as the Monetary Board may require. Next, we have in fixing by rules or by orders in specific cases after notice and hearing the limits of loanable funds, amounts for investment, and reserves for withdrawals and other contingencies. In issuing rules and regulations for the proper implementation of this Act, effective administration of the associations, and to render advisory assistance to all interested parties in order to carry out the intents and purposes of this act. And then lastly, in conducting such investigations, taking such remedial measures, and exercising all powers under RA numbers 7653 insofar as they are applicable in enforcement of this act. The Bangko Sentral shall have the power to enforce laws, orders, instructions, rules, and regulations. They also have circulars currently by the Monetary Board applicable to associations to require associations, their trustees, officers, agents to conduct and manage the affairs of the association in a lawful and orderly manner. That's why they have laws. After due notice and hearing, the Monetary Board may revoke or suspend the license of any association if they engage in other activities not allowed for them to do for such period as it determines necessary, particularly when the solvency of an association is imperiled. So if they're also experiencing financial troubles by losses or irregularities, and or when an association willfully violates any provisions of this act or any rule or regulations promulgated hereunder, right? The director and examiners of the department of the BSP charged with the regulation of associations are hereby authorized to administer oaths to any trustee, officer, or employee of any association or to any voluntary witness, and to compel the presentation of all books, for audit, documents, papers, records necessary in his judgment to ascertain the facts relative to the true condition of any association or to any loan. So they're also subject to audit, okay, of their financial statements, records, okay. Penalties, the provisions of Section 34 of RA 7653 shall apply to any agent, manager, or other OIC officer in charge of any association who willfully refuses any lawful examination into the affairs of such association. Essentially, whoever refuses an examination, it's either, it's essentially a red flag. And for what reason are they going to refuse an investigation if they have nothing to hide, right? Or if they haven't committed any violation? The willful making of a false statement or misleading statement on a material fact to the Monetary Board or to the director of the department of the BSP charged with the regulation of associations or to his examiners shall be punished in accordance with Section 35 of RA 7653. Whenever any association, person, or entity willfully violates this act or any order, instruction, rule, or regulation issued by the Monetary Board applicable to associations, the persons responsible for such violation shall be punished as well. Section 36 naman of RA 7653. Accepts, give fees or commissions, any form of remuneration in connection with the approval of a loan, so some sort of bribe, overvalues or aids in overvaluing a security for the purpose of influencing. So they shall be punished by a fine of not more than 10,000 pesos or 3 times the loan amount involved, whichever is higher, or imprisonment of not more than 1 year at the discretion of the court. Okay, so this is like that case of employees who approved the loans irregardless of whether they are if they qualified for it, upon presentation of the required documents. Okay, so in a way this is fraudulent, okay, essentially. Next, whenever any applicant for a loan or borrower of an association fraudulently overvalues property offered as security for loan, okay, furnishes false or makes willful misrepresentation of material facts. Okay, so any act that would unduly benefit another person, undue, the keyword there, operative word is undue. Okay, so that would be punished as well, not more than 5,000 or 3 times the loan amount involved, whichever is higher, or imprisonment not more than 1 year at the discretion of the court. Okay, as for any examiner, officer, or employee of the BSP who would assist in such fraudulent activities, fraudulent acts, so they would also face punishment, 10,000 or 3 times the loan amount involved, whichever is higher, or imprisonment of not more than 1 year at the discretion of the court as well. Section 24, annual fees. So they do have this. Any association organized under this act may, pursuant to regulations promulgated for the purpose by the Monetary Board, shall be required to contribute to the Bangko Sentral an annual fee to be determined by the Monetary Board. Implementation, yeah, so BSP is authorized to require the services and facilities of any department or instrumentality of the government or any officer or employee of any such department or instrumentality, okay, to carry out the objectives of this act. Annual report of the Monetary Board, so they would submit a report as well to the Congress. Industry association, membership in any existing association of associations. So this is, association of associations. Duly accredited and recognized by the BSP is hereby encouraged. Applicability of other laws, so yeah, not in conflict with this one, shall apply to associations organized here under. You have your separability clause, repealing, and then effectivity. Okay, so these are essentially the clauses involved in the operation, establishment, and operation of non-stock savings and loan associations, so commonly known as associations. Okay, so again, if there are, other information that I could find, so I would provide the links to the articles or whatever source it is in the description of this video. All right, so for this one, we will end it here. So thanks and bye.